Hi y'all, and welcome back to my channel. And welcome to, as I always say, the only type of content that is anytime consistent on my channel, and that is Burp Squad, a absolutely fantastical anti-haul. I don't even want to start telling you how many of these I end up having on like backup, because if any of you didn't know then, you know now. I pre-film. I do not make enough on this platform to be able to just like break down and film a video and have it up the next day. That's just not how I can roll. And so with how many products that are coming out, anti-hauls are one of those things that there's always something to talk about. I mean, we all know that companies are constantly and always releasing dumb things. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times, and I'm gonna say it until I die. We all know this. And today on our fantastical list, we have quite a few products that have me feeling a certain way. I feel like it's not an anti-haul with me if I don't feel a certain way about at least something. And today we most certainly have a couple something. So without further ado, without further embellishment, let's just go on in and talk about these travesty-filled products. And we might as well start out of the gate strong. We might as well start out of the gate with one of the probably most underwhelming collections that have been released this year. And that is going to be the absolute joke of a collection. That is the Urban Decay X Prince. I do not know what it is with Urban Decay taking people of color artists and then doing them absolutely dirty with their collections. Not only have they done it this year with Prince, they've also done it with Jean-Michel Basquiat, and I've talked about that at length. So, with this said collection, we have got two eyeshadow palettes, which, if I'm being completely honest, these two eyeshadow palettes look pretty similar if we're coming from just a very simple color theory, whatever. I wasn't absolutely offended and horrified by the packaging, but the issue I have with this is when you take someone who is as iconic, who is as groundbreaking, who has such an impact, not just on the musical industry, but like culturally as well. And then you give that to a brand like Urban Decay, who at this point we've come to realize they are a company as well like Too Faced who like to do the bare minimum. They really like taking hold of some kind of theme, some kind of license something, some kind of collaboration, which I don't know if it should be called a collaboration in the first place. My cousin just informed me that they did in fact team up with Prince's estate. She is very knowledgeable about him. She absolutely adores him, loves him, all that jazz. So, with that being said, Urban Decay does like to take a hold of these things and you're like, oh yeah, yeah. You know, they're gonna be taking something like, you know, as iconic as Prince, and you're like, this is gonna be earth-shattering. This is going to be world groundbreaking. We are going to get excitement. We're going to get pizzazz. We're going to get amazingness. And then they give us this, which is, I feel, an absolutely perfect example of the bare minimum. Because they're like, all right, we're going to take this shiz and we're going to do this packaging and we're going to put the eye on everything and it's going to be so iconic and so great and so whatever. And then we're going to do what we do with every other collection we have, and we're going to take the eyeshadows that we have sitting, rotting in the back, and we're going to take that shiz, and we're going to put it into two different palettes, pretending that maybe they're two different palettes, when in reality, they look like basically the same thing. They have done this time and time again. I mean, the only good thing that came out of this collaboration is the fact that Urban Decay finally decided that it would be a good thing to use models of the deep, dark, delicious melanin for this ad campaign, which we know they did not do in the Jean-Michel Basquiat, which still boggles my mind. So I do feel like Urban Decay is probably out there feeling themselves and being like, ooh, we inclusive, we fancy, we are breaking inclusivity boundaries. We are at the forefront of this issue. When in reality, Urban Decay is back at the back of the bus, not doing nothing at all. But they're gonna release this collection and they're gonna think they some hot shiz by using models of color for a collaboration that is very obviously going to be targeted to, I mean, a multitude of people because his music touched a multitude of people. But when you're collaborating with someone of color, someone who has such an impact on their own culture, maybe you should think a little bit about representation. Maybe you should think a little about of actually making the collection something viable that actually represents who he was as a person and a musician. I mean, it's Prince, for Pete's sake. He has had one of the most absolutely fantabulous wardrobes of music just history. I cannot tell you how much of my androgyny has been inspired by two people, David Bowie and Prince. I saw that shiz and I'm like, I'm gonna need me to have like 500 ruffled shirts, you know? And so you take something as iconic and as amazing as and fantastical and fantasy as that, and you really, I mean, they could have effed this up. I mean, they did eff it up, but they could have effed it up in a good way. If they had gone full blown and been like, we are going to give you purple. I mean, could you imagine if they had a palette named Purple Rain and they gave us purple decadence? They looked Jeffree Star in the eyes and they said, hold my beer. We are going to take this purple theme and we are going to jack that shiz to Jesus. I mean, I have given Jeffree Star so much shiz for his like Bloodlust palette being like G-rated purples. This is worse. This is not even, I mean, it's just like, oh, we're gonna do like a little bit of a purple and then we're gonna add all these similar shades to make it smoky. And then on top of that, we got a highlighter that isn't even what I would consider. I looked at that highlighter and I was like, dang, that's gonna work on my pasty complexion. And if that shit's gonna be working on my pasty complexion, we ain't know that's not gonna work on those of the deep, dark, delicious. There are just so many things wrong with this. I mean, at some point, someone should have been like, pump the brakes. We need to take this shiz back to the drawing board. We need to actually think about the person that we are collaborating with. And for the first time in our lives, maybe make a collection that actually represents who they were. Okay, that got a little bit heated. I feel as it should be because I cannot with these companies. I cannot with these brands. You know, I am old. I am tired. I don't have time for this shiz and this absolute nonsense. And on that note, we're going to talk about some more nonsense. Benefit, an absolutely wonderful company that is fading into obscurity and desperately trying to hold on to any sort of relevance they have. We talked about their lack of inclusivity when they decided to do the Hula Glow. Well, they have also decided to give us, in the name of Hula, this is the Hula Contourist, which is a contour palette, I think, that has 4 different shades that are basically, I believe, just 4 different shades of their hula. Now, I have come a long way from when I've been here first on this platform. You know, in the beginning, I was like, everything people recommend is good and amazing, and I need to buy all of it. We don't do that no more. And looking at this thing, looking at this palette, I'm just like, what is the point? Especially if you're a company that's trying to drag yourself up out of obscurity. This is what you're going to give us. You're going to give us a tired, old contour palette that is the type of thing where you look at it and you're like, all right, if I'm someone who's pasty buying this thing, I can use 1, 2 shades of that. And then if you're someone of the deep, dark, delicious melanin, it's like, I can use 1 shade of that. I think contour palettes, because back in the day it was like, oh, well, let's make makeup artist and pro makeup a thing. People are like, ooh, Urban Decay, ABH, whatever contour palette. They're like, ooh, artists need it. I'm not a makeup artist. I don't need a contour palette, and I especially don't need a contour palette from Benefit being this hula thing. And it's just, is tired, is old, it's done, it's dead. We don't want to see this. This horse has been beaten to death, and then it's been brought back from the grave by makeup company Necromancy Powers, and then beaten to death again. I just don't see this being, you know, like I say all the time, and I know a lot of people think I'm harsh, a lot of people think I'm mean, a lot of people think, well, you're only talking about makeup from your own perspective. You're not thinking about other people. I mean, I'm the one putting the makeup on my face. I I discuss my perspective and I try to say that in my videos. This is something you love. If this is a product that you're like, F me up, Benefit just dropped this hula contourist thing, then that is absolutely fan-tucking-fastic. You keep doing you, boo-boo. But for me, this is just another tired, sad release that's just like, well, we're still popular. We need to remind people that the hula still exists, but we can't keep promoting the same hula product, so we have to keep doing things to make it different, even though it's essentially the same thing. I'm done. I've had it. I'm out. Okay, another one. We haven't even had one where I'm like, oh, this one I'd buy if I had money to buy. No, we're not doing that right now. This is Hip Dot, which is a brand that I feel is kind of like Glam Glow. Glam Glow, is that it? No, not right. Glow Recipe, where they're all like, ew, look at our fancy thing on Instagram, and look at it. They're very hypey, very Instagrammy, that sort of demographic. Although I have had a couple of you tell me that apparently their quality is really pretty good, so if they ever finally come up with something that I'm absolutely not offended by, I might buy it. But this offends me. And that is the Hip Dot plus Clueless. And I don't know if you all know, but by my name, 90s Love Child, I love the 90s. It's kind of my thing. It's kind of my aesthetic. It's my brand. And I absolutely adore the movie Clueless. It has plaid. It has 90s. It has grunge. It has absolutely everything I want it to in fashion aesthetic. I recently rewatched it on my plane ride to Washington. I was like, yeah. F me up, dark florals, plaid, yeah! And then I look at this collection, and I see a plethora of pastels. Now, don't get me wrong. There were certainly pastel tones within the movie. We had that cute yellow thing. You've got a little bit of baby blue, a little bit of baby pink. But looking at the movie objectively, in almost a color scheme sort of way, the film was so much more grungy. It had a lot of dark tones. It had reds. It had blacks. It had rich, deep, decadent tones because the 90s, while it did have the, pastel-y whatever side, there was a lot of grunge going on. I don't know if any of you know, but grunge is not pastel. Although if your thing is a pastel grunge aesthetic, you do you. I mean, I feel like on my channel, it's just kind of my thing to get offended at this point, but when you take something that I love, when you take something that I am passionate about, that is such an important, inspiring part of developing who I am, and you take that shiz and you wring it out and you water it down and you give me pastels, it really shows to me that you as a company don't actually take the time to appropriately analyze the collaboration, the content that you are supposed to be drawing makeup inspiration from. I don't know, but I feel like there's just so much missed opportunity. They were like, all right, let's throw some cute, kitschy pastels up in this thing, make it cute, let's have a marabou pen, and keep it pushing. What I would have loved to see is just a little bit, just a teensy-weensy bit of depth. And you can have depth with those kind of colors. We could have had some vampy reds, a little bit of, we had that red outfit that she wore. I mean, do y'all remember a lot of Dee's outfit? And she was like high key, the actual style icon in that film. I mean, where is the grunge? Where is the dark? Where is the 90s? I mean, come on, people. Don't give me a little swatch of pastel yellow plaid and then put a bunch of pastels in this palette and tell me, oh, well, this represents Clueless. I am not going to be putting pastel yellow and pastel blue and pastel pink on my eyes and think, yep, I'm from the movie. I am living my Clueless dreams right now, because I'm not. Because I don't like it. I don't think it's a color story that represents the true visual beauty that was the film. It doesn't capture it. And I've said this, you guys have heard, just about to Sailor Moon talk about it with the Hocus Pocus. There's so many collections where these companies literally, they're just like, we're going to take this popular thing because people are going to buy it because it's a popular thing. And then we're just going to really just kind of do that bare minimum where we just touch the surface of what it could possibly be. But people are gonna buy it anyway because it's this popular cult thing. But I'm not going to be buying. I am not going to be brainwashed into believing that this is the clueless palette that we deserve, because it's not. All right, we might as well talk about Morphe. You guys all know that that is a company that I absolutely love and adore. It's my fave. No, it's not. I absolutely hate Morphe. And they have decided, once again, I love it when companies, well, I don't love it. I'm being absolutely sarcastic at this point if you couldn't tell. But when companies do a certain thing and they do the thing, and the thing ends up being relatively popular, and they're like, all right, we've stretched it this far at this point. Let's see if we can make it go even further. And so the marketing team at Morphe decided, all right, the votes are in. We've got the demographic and everything. We need to do a round 2 of our Morphe X Coca-Cola collection, which, as much issue as I had with that, because I was like, okay, Morphe X Coca, all right. You know, at least the tones and the colors were somewhat evocative of said Coca-Cola. You know, we had a bunch of neutrals, and we had some reds and a little silver and something like that. I'm like, okay, all right. Not my thing, but I guess it works. And then for this one, they said, you want to know what people want? They want us to take all the neutrals from the first one and stick them in a palette, with a bunch of pasty pastels. You know, we've got like a salmon, and we've got like a yellow, and we've got like a soft baby blue. I'm like, I feel like with Coca-Cola, I mean, you've got red and black and some white. I ain't seen no Coca-Cola with no blue, with no salmon, with no yellow. Where are you getting this from? And it's going to be like, it's like spring themed Coca-Cola. And all the beautiful pastels represent all the springy flowers that we're evoking in this Morphe and Coca-Cola collaboration that we're literally desperately trying to stretch out as much as we can. Because like I said, like I've been saying this whole video, we're going to take this licensed thing and we are going to beat it. And we are going to wail on this thing. At this point, we are Spanish Inquisitioning these things to death. We're no longer, you know, just using them until they're old and tired. We are torturing them. They're on the rack. They're in the Iron Maiden, and we're just literally letting them have it. And maybe, like I always say, maybe I suck at makeup. Maybe I don't have the correct sort of mindset to understand the subtle intricacies of a neutral palette with a bunch of poppy pastels that represents Coca-Cola in the spring. Maybe it's because my drink of choice is neither Coca-Cola or Pepsi. I mean, I'm absolutely waiting for another company to be like, all right, Morphe, you did Coca-Cola. Let's see you see this. And they're going to do Pepsi. It does nothing for me. And just because it does nothing for me, if you love it, it's your favorite, you're all like, F me up. Bunch of neutrals with some pastels, that is your shiz. You live your best life. But I'm just like, we had Coca-Cola and it worked pretty well. And now we're like Coca-Cola with pastels. And I'm just like, I don't understand. And like I said, maybe I'm dumb. Maybe I'm stupid. Maybe I suck at makeup. But I just do not see the inspiration, the need, or the aesthetic out of the Coca-Cola Morphe Spring collection. Summer, not spring, I think. All right, let's see here. We've talked about, okay, here's one that one of y'all tagged me in and was like, I can just hear this in the anti-haul. I mean, you're right. We always got to talk about Colourpop. Wouldn't be an anti-haul for me if I didn't shiz on the company I absolutely hate and love. And as it always seems with Colourpop, as I, finish one anti-haul, we bring that editing to a close. I have my list and, 2 minutes later after I finish it, Colourpop's like, I got another collection for you. My eyes roll right out of my head and I gotta talk about this shiz. And that is the Colourpop So Lovely collection. I mean, I must admit, I don't have a lot of gnarliness to say about this collection because it doesn't necessarily offend me in a color theory sort of way, in a way where I'm like, well, this is the dumbest palette whatever that I've ever seen. So I'm probably gonna sound like a little bit of a broken record here, but I've been tired of Colourpop releasing so many collections and so many. I've been tired for months. I've been tired for I was tired the whole 2020. And now we halfway through 2021 and they still doing this shiz. I just need them to slow down. Not for me, not for any sort of reasoning that I need them to slow down, but just because I have grown tired of the monotonous releasing every other day. And like I said with Colourpop, it's never just a small thing. It always has to be this big, grand, entire collection. We got eyeshadow palettes. We got lippy sticks. We're including Super Shock shadows in our, now that apparently Super Shock shadows are a thing again, we're having those in collections now. We've got blushes, which I admit tempt me just about every single time they release them. But it's always this big, giant thing that they're trying to pass off as being the next big thing, when really it's just the same thing getting repackaged, repurposed, put into a new aesthetic, and sold to us as being this amazing, wonderful Colourpop collection. I mean, it's been the same thing for I don't know how long. They keep giving us the same tired neutrals with some sort of shifting difference. And now they're also having the audacity of being like, here are those same neutrals that we've released in the past 6 palettes, but we're going to put a pop of something interesting in it. So, you know, your mind thinks that it's a little bit different when in reality it's the same thing. We've got psychological warfare going on in the selection of shades in our eyeshadow palettes. We're not even just like, we're just like, all right, these are the same things. We know they're the same things. They're the same colors. They're the same shadows we keep using. And they've come to the realization. They're like, all right, we got to make them look different somehow. Here's the blue. Here's the purple. Here's the pink. Here's the green. And then some poor sad person scrolling through Trend Mood is going to be like, ooh, F me up. I don't have a neutral palette with a pop of that in my collection. Colourpop literally at this point lives to make me frustrated. You know, I have so many products by them that I love, that I use on a day-to-day basis. Blushes, eyeshadows, skincare. And I'm like, you make such good things. Just slow down. Stop trying to have a corner on every single part of the market and just concentrate on creating smaller, more curated, better thought out, less repetitive products. That is all I ask of you, and I don't think it's honestly at this point too much. But the majority of mainstream makeup at this point is just skating on mediocrity. Okay, then we've got the new Plouise collection. I mean, when I saw that release, I was just like, weren't they canceled? Are they still making makeup? Because if we all remember that whole like canceled collection, I'm gonna say very problematic things, and then when I get called out for it, I'm gonna make a whole collection that's supposed to be some kind of social commentary on, well, we shouldn't cancel things for things that they say and blah 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 blah. I mean, that alone is enough to make me not want to buy from this company, which makes me just a little bit sad, because if this color story does not F me up, this is like Natasha Denona, is it Sunset? That one palette she made that was like $129, and then there was the Lila one, the one that was before that one, and everyone was like, F me up, Natasha Denona is the second coming in makeup form. And I never bought it because I wasn't gonna do no $129 on an eyeshadow palette, and so this looks like that color story, but like Jack to Jesus. And I'm kind of living for that. I love the yellow, I love the reds, I love the oranges, I love the gold. Were this released by like, oh gosh, I don't even know, because I can't even be like, if this were released by Urban Decay, no. If this were released by no. If this were released by no. If this were released by like Midas Cosmetics, Give Me Glow, or Kaleidos, then yeah, sure, F me up. I would buy this shiz in a heartbeat. But it's not. So I just look at this thing and I kind of mourn that beautiful, appealing color story where I kind of want to get all like sunsetty vibes all up on my lids, because it is a very, very pretty, a very nice curated color story. And it makes me, like I said, kind of sad because I ain't going to be buying from these people. But at least they're out here making better color stories than Urban Decay and Too Faced and Tarte and all of those people. It's just not something that I really want to be spending my money on because I don't like the company, and there are plenty of indie indie releases that I'm so behind on that I want to purchase, but I'm poor. So seeing this, I was like, yay, a color story that isn't, you know, I mean, yeah, it's the same thing we've seen, but at least it's expanded a little bit. I mean, that's better than what Milk Cosmetics did with the blueprint stack. We're like, ooh, we're making a palette. And by making a palette, they literally just took their stack and made it into a palette. Not that groundbreaking, Milk Cosmetics. I hate to let you know. But that's probably all that I have time for today. You all know that anti-hauls are in good fun, well, for the most part. I feel like anti-hauls are an excellent way to critique the problematic issues within makeup releases, because even amidst all of the call-outs, amidst all of the things that the community has like, don't do this instead, don't do this, the companies are like, what? I didn't hear them say nothing. What inclusivity? I don't know what that is. And I am just not here for it anymore. I'm really not. I'm done. I've had it. And I just take anti-hauls as sort of a way for me to share my frustrations with all y'all. Like always, I would love to hear what y'all have to say about these products down below. And like I said, if you love them, that is great. I am truly so happy for you. And I would also love to hear something that you've anti-hauled today, yesterday, 5 months ago, or whatever. But thank you guys so much for watching. I love you. And as always, keep it real. Mwah!